So let's just get started. Guys, I got to be the first to say I am more than happy to be doing this today, and you guys are in for an event like no other. Nathan is going to be breaking down exactly how you can start earning passive income from your music, so please get out your notes and make sure you do not miss out on these gems. I also want to let you guys know that Nathan and myself won't be able to respond to any of the chat because we're going to be looking at our slides here, trying to focus and make this as valuable as possible for you. We do have Rucker and Troy helping out in the chat to answer any quick questions. We're also going to be sticking around to answer a lot of the common questions at the end, so please stick around till then. But that is enough of me. Let's get going, and I'm going to have Nathan take over right now. So yeah.
Okay, dope. I appreciate that, Ryan. First of all, how's everybody's Saturday going? I want to thank every single one of you guys who registered and made it today to this free masterclass. We're pretty excited about this, but before we start, I do want to confess that I will be looking at my notes every now and then. We wanted to make sure that this was as valuable as possible, so we did make some sort of outline for this. Like Ryan said, that means I will not be looking at chat while I'm presenting this, but I will do so later. I know there's a lot you guys could be doing right now, but let me tell you, there's never been a better time to get involved within sync licensing. Like I said, we're going to help teach you everything you need to know about how to get your first TV placement. I do have to admit that this isn't the first time I'm doing something like this, but doing a presentation for this many people is definitely new to me. Hopefully I don't mess up. I can't guarantee you that my jokes will be funny, so bear with me, but the information will be super valuable. So like I said, I have some experience with helping producers getting into sync. Some of you guys may be here today that I've already helped in the past. Shout out to you guys. I really appreciate you guys for showing up. Some of you guys started from scratch. Some of you had no clue about sync licensing. Some of you were even struggling submitting to over 150 libraries with no luck. Shout out to you, Sagara. I know you're probably in here today. I hope you don't mind me making an example out of you. Anyways, I was able to help a lot of producers get their first TV placements, and even producers who already had multiple placements and needed help landing more consistently. I really want to stress to you that you will not find this level of information anywhere else on the internet. We've been doing a ton of research on it in the past, and I can guarantee that. So if you leave this masterclass, you will miss out on learning how to take advantage of this brand new opportunity. But by the end of this masterclass, you will see how I've been able to go from $180 on my first royalty check, making dozens of mistakes along the way, to finally breaking out and now making over $70,000 a year passively making beats for TV shows just through royalty checks alone.
Nathan, I just want to interrupt here. Guys, do not forget about the giveaway at the end where we are going to be giving away over $2,500 in prizes. We didn't say much about the giveaway in the promotion for the masterclass just to avoid drawing in people who would just take up the seats from the producers who actually want to learn something today. But I promise we do have a massive giveaway coming at the end, which includes Slate Digital yearly passes, Native Instruments complete bundles, and some sample packs from some of our producer friends like Jay Cactus, Chucky Beats, and Prod by Ocean, plus a special surprise. Those who stick around to the end will qualify. If you do leave early, you won't qualify. Sorry. Basically, we're going to export a list of people still in here at the end of the masterclass and pick the winners from there. Sorry about my voice crack. But back to you, Nathan.
Yes. Yeah. I appreciate you mentioning that, Ryan. So let's go over who this masterclass is for. This is for anyone who wants to make passive income as a musician, no matter what genre you make, anyone who wants to gain credibility in the music world, anyone who wants to become their own boss, anyone who wants to have more free time doing whatever it is they want. I guess it's probably different for everybody, but for me personally, that's spending time with my family, especially now as I welcome a new baby boy into the world next month, which we're super happy about. And this is even for people who just want to build up another side hustle as a musician, as sync licensing can be an extremely lucrative side hustle. Also, most of you guys filled out the survey when registering. Honestly, this was super helpful because we didn't know what kind of producers would join. And thanks to your answer you guys have been giving us, we've been able to make some slight adjustments to our presentation. So this actually applies to almost everybody's situations. And let us tell you what, after seeing all the responses, we have a lot on the line to make sure that this is as valuable as possible because both Heate and myself have a lot to maintain for our reputation. So my goal for this masterclass is for you to truly understand how sync licensing is an opportunity like no other on the online music space. And there's hundreds of producers making six figures a year from sync licensing that you probably never even heard of because they work in the shadows. And your timing could not be better as sync licensing was on track to have an all-time record in 2022 and it's only growing. Ironically, it's been in front of your face all this time, but most of you guys probably didn't even see it. How do I know this? Well, let's check out some of these survey responses. Over 500 people said they've heard about sync licensing, but never put any effort into it. While at the same time, many of you guys said you were struggling with finding opportunities for your music. And above all, over 50% of people here mentioned they've never even understood how it really works. Well, today we are about to change that. In fact, here's my promise to you. By the end of this free masterclass, you will learn how you can start earning passive income from your music being used in TV shows, commercials, movies, and other visual media. And it doesn't matter how many followers you have. It doesn't matter your connections. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. So if you're open to learning about how to do this, let me get a 1 in the chat. Making sure you guys are still with me here. All right, dope. Looks like we're all on the same page. Now, I know I've been making some bold claims so far, so let me explain to you guys why this is so different than any other way to make money as a music producer. Some of you guys are low key, and that's one of the best things starting off is that you can work within the shadows. And unlike any other method as far as making money as a producer these days, you don't need to build a social media following. You don't need to drive traffic to a website. You don't need product or services. A lot of you guys selling beats online do audio engineering, recording, mixing, mastering. And surprisingly, a lot of you guys are actually doing live shows too. Well, you guys know better than anyone how important marketing and promotion is to succeed in these things, right? Well, the cool thing about sync licensing is that you don't need to learn marketing. You don't need to get in front of a camera. You don't need to upload your beats to YouTube, reach out to artists, none of that. All you need really is to make great music and get it in front of the right people. Now, it's not going to be easy, guys, and we're going to do our best to cover as much as we can. So here's what we're about to cover today. First up is going to be a bit of my story. I've been able to make a full-time living off of sync, but I did this the hardest way possible, and I want to make sure you guys are not making the same mistakes that I did. Second, we're going to go over why for so many producers, sync licensing offers a much more sustainable business model, especially for you guys out there who's been unable to find any success in your current methods, or if any of you guys are struggling to get things moving, sync licensing may be a better alternative that fits you. Third, we're going to go over the exact blueprint to landing your first TV placement. And just a disclaimer to this, for my experience helping others out, I know you guys are probably going to end up with more questions once I explain all this part, but I want to make sure that I address as much as I can. And if anything's not clear, guys, just put it in the chat. I'll go over it later if the guys can't pick it up. Fourth, we're going to go over how to overcome the roadblocks that's holding you back from getting more placements. I'll talk about some of the critical changes that I made in my own personal workflow, some of the strategies that really helped me go from 1 placement to having over 10,000 placements. And then fifth, we're going to go over the insider knowledge that I gained that will teach you how to ensure that your royalty checks keep getting bigger and bigger every quarter of the year. Honestly, it's probably the best part of sync licensing. If you do it right, it's true passive income, and your royalty checks are about to get bigger and bigger every quarter.
And also, Nathan, I just want to interrupt you one more time here just so we can be transparent for everybody watching. Anybody here who's familiar with Heate, you guys know we sell courses for producers too, and we want to be honest with you. Honestly, it's actually very much against the rules of marketing to tell you this already, but we truly appreciate you guys for being here, and I think it's only fair to be upfront about what's to come. So yes, we do have a new course that we will introduce at the end. This course is called Zero to Sync, and we've created it specially for those who really want to step up and get active in sync licensing fast. We know there's been a lot of rumors about this already, but we don't want you to constantly think, okay, cool, what's this guy going to sell me on? Like I said, I promise you this masterclass will be super valuable to anybody who's in here today. Just stick with us and you'll learn a ton of new things. And once we get to the point of introducing Zero to Sync, you're free to leave at any time if you're not interested. So yeah, all right, back to Nathan.
All right, dope. Yeah, so I know there's a ton of viewers in here right now. I recognize some of you guys who've been with me for a while, but I want to give a quick introduction to myself for any of you guys who don't know anything really about me. So online, I go by Excalibur Zero, but my real name is Nathan. I've been in the sync licensing game for over 7 years now. I've been fortunate enough to support myself full time with my music. I landed over 10,000 placements on hundreds of major networks like ESPN, VH1, MTV, Netflix, and many more. Honestly, there's not really a day that goes by where my music is not being used on TV. And I'm proud to say now that I'm the new head of sync licensing for Heate. And for those of you guys who don't know anything about Heate, they spent the last 5 years helping the thousands of producers to monetize off their music, selling beats online. There's a lot of success stories derived from their CCS Masterclass. To me, honestly, they've become the most valuable knowledge resource in the game for the whole producer community space. They work with some of the biggest and most respected producers and brands. So obviously I was super hyped when they actually reached out to me to join their team. Now, back to my story. Remember I told you this earlier that I did this the hardest way possible. And let me explain a little bit about that. All right, so let's jump back to the year 2011. And please do not roast my setup in the chat. I was super proud of this setup back then. But just like most producers, I got into selling beats online because it just seemed like the easiest route. And there was no other opportunities I even seen possible at the time. Only then, there was no BeatStars, there was no Soundy or Airbit to really help me organize a proper workflow. And after months of trying on my own, it was just way too inconsistent. And like I said, this is 2011. There was no resources like Heate around. There was no successful producers even sharing their methods. And YouTube at the time was pretty much just cat videos. And now, one day I noticed there's something weird on multiple people's SoundClick beat stores. And SoundClick was just the beat stores that we used back then. So sorry for my outdated references. But there was a section on these B stores where producers were sharing their placements, but there wasn't like major label placements. There were more placements for like TV networks, like the ones I listed earlier, like MTV, VH1, ESPN. I did some digging on my own to find out more about how they were getting these kind of placements, but it would just seem way too out of my reach at the time. After all, I was a teenager living in Virginia. How do I even get in contact with MTV? And it's funny, I didn't even think about the money at that point. I just found it really cool to be able to flex these kind of placements and put them on my beat stores. Now, before I continue, I do want to make it very clear. This was 2011. YouTube videos were still cat videos. Blogs didn't really exist for this because it was such a small topic. And all around, the information was pretty scarce. So I ended up pursuing this the hardest way possible. I ended up taking some of the biggest risks in my life, and I'm grateful for those times because it really shaped me to be who I am today. But if I had to do it all over again, trust me, I would not do it the same way again, because these days there are way better, easier, faster ways, and I'm about to tell you about that soon. But I do think that anything I could share from my personal journey could be of value. Now, I'm sure some of you guys can relate to this, but just like anyone who's starting off with music, I had to get a job because music was not bringing in much for me. I had just graduated from high school. I just moved out on my own, and I started to work this really shitty retail job. It was called H.H. Gregg. They paid me like a whopping $8 an hour at the time. Now, during this time, my mom really started to press me. She wanted me to go to college, but I knew if I went to college, it would have to be for something that I actually wanted to learn, something that I was actually passionate about. Because you can ask any of my friends during high school, I was like the most below average student just because I did not care. Now, after doing some research, I landed on Full Sail University so I can get my bachelor's degree in recording arts, right? Now, Full Sail is not your typical college. Full Sail is a college for entertainment media. It's for arts, for film, technology, all that good stuff. So once I got that letter of acceptance, I pretty much marched into H.H. Gregg. I told my manager I was done. And honestly, I did not like this guy. I did not like the job, but I was really glad just to be able to say my goodbyes. So when I put my 2 weeks in, 3 days before I was about to leave to go to college, this dude pulls me into my office as soon as I started my shift. He sits me down, he looks me right in my eyes, he fires me, and he says, "Good luck with your DJ thing." Now, this is probably the most backhanded compliment I had ever received. But hey, you know what? I was out. And this is where I had one big issue. At that time, I was living in Virginia, and Full Sail was located all the way in Florida. And it was honestly really hard for me to save up, especially because I was only getting $8 an hour. And not to mention, Full Sail University is super expensive. So I went through that long process of getting financial aid. But here's where my journey really starts to begin. Now, Full Sail was actually a really dope experience. I met some great people, but what I didn't know is that it was extremely demanding. I was in school for 8 hours a day, Monday through Saturday, and because of this, it was super impossible for me to be able to get a job that would fit inside of my school schedule. And I was raised by a single mother. My mom really pulled it off. She gave me $50 every 2 weeks, and I was grateful for it. But let's be honest, there's not much you can really do with $50 every 2 weeks because that's like $3.50 a day. And I was still selling beats online here and there. Whenever I would get a random beat sale, it was honestly truly a blessing. It honestly felt like winning the lottery. To let you guys in on how much I was actually struggling, I actually ended up in situations where I had to take my music equipment to a pawn shop. And I vividly remember I had pawned my Shure microphone, my SM58, for $10. And then I used it just to be able to buy a Chipotle burrito at that time. And looking back, the one thing that kept me going during this time was my old manager from that retail store saying, "Good luck with your DJ thing." And this replayed in my head, and honestly became fuel to my motivation. So I did end up graduating in 2014 finally, but now I owed over $100,000 in student loan debts, and I was living that American dream, right? Well, at this point, my friends, my family, they all thought I was crazy. To them, I was just a guy selling music equipment for burritos, crazy enough to chase a fantasy living off of music. Now, shortly after graduating, there did seem to be a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. I received two opportunities. I could either go to work at a studio in New York, or I could go to California to work for a music library. Both of those opportunities were unpaid internships, but throughout the years, I always had my mind set on being in LA. And even though it was more than 2,000 miles away, I really didn't think twice about it. I was so focused and determined to make a living off of my music that I went ahead and actually accepted it right away. So luckily, I even had a friend from Full Sail that I graduated with that needed a roommate in LA. So I packed up and I got the money for a plane ticket. And this is where you guys probably think everything starts clicking, right? This is where the sun starts to shine and everything works out. Well, not really. Now stick with me, guys. This is the end of my story. Ryan really insisted that I tell you guys this part of the story too. So this is the part where I moved to LA and I start to live in Van Nuys. Anybody know about Van Nuys? It's probably one of the sketchiest places to live in LA. I got my car broken into at least 6 times. You would see random needles all over the streets and sidewalks. It definitely was not the best experience. Now, because of the internship being unpaid, I did have to get a full-time job while interning at the music library. It was a warehouse job, but it was a lot of physical work, and it was almost impossible for me to combine the work that I had with the music library. I got to be honest with you all, the thought of giving up did cross my mind multiple times, but I knew the only way I would fail is if I gave up, and I did not come this far to give up. Now, luckily, this is where things start to change. While working at that internship, I did all the usual boring stuff, right? I picked up the dry cleaning, I got coffee, yada, yada, yada. I didn't really care because at that point, I would do whatever I needed to do to prove myself. And now, aside from the typical internship jobs, I also had to fill out something called Q sheets. Now, if you don't know what a Q sheet is, you might want to take some notes. A Q sheet is all the information and data of all the tracks used in an episode of TV or a movie or a game. And this is actually an example of a Q sheet. This is actually a big part of how sync licensing works. This is how you actually get paid through royalties. Through filling out these Q sheets, I got to hear all the songs that were actually being used in TV shows. Only now is when I realized how valuable this boring task has been to my success. Think about it. I got to hear the exact music that editors were choosing to use in these shows several hours a day. Now, your brain starts to really pick up on some of these patterns. And after some time, I submitted my first track to the music library based off what I had remembered constantly hearing over and over again. I mean, I was listening to at least hundreds of tracks per week, and I thought this was about to be an easy placement. I thought I had everything figured out. Well, that track that I sent in instantly got rejected. And this kind of honestly messed up my confidence because at the end of the day, I ended up not submitting another track for a few months just because of that fear of rejection. And again, this is where you want to make sure you make notes today because this is something I see a lot of musicians struggle with. I'll talk about more about how rejection is actually the perfect tool to help you get more placements later. And it may sound a little backwards, but you'll see. Luckily, after 7 months, though, of being an intern at Signature Tracks, they offered me a full-time job. And this is where everything really starts to change for me. So as the unpaid intern, you're just an intern, right? Now, once I became full-time, it seemed like a whole new world really started to open up for me. I got so much more involved in that process of everything sync related. And the perks of being the new guy is that you got to ask a ton of dumb questions. And let me tell you guys, if there's anything that you're afraid to ask because you think it might be a dumb question, today is the day you can ask all the dumb questions. We're all here to help each other. We're here to learn. I know many of you are completely new to sync, so let me know if I'm going too fast. You see, I had this one coworker who was very special to me who made me feel comfortable asking those dumb questions. And I owe him more than he would ever know because he's taught me so much in the industry. And he even helped me with my own tracks whenever we had extra time, and he did not hold back. He would give me brutally honest feedback. After a while, I started to notice the value of his feedback and the value of having someone like him to guide me along the ways. And honestly, thanks to him, I was able to move up the chain in the music library. Now, I was picking out the playlist for TV shows, right? I was no longer messing around with cue sheets. I was now providing the exact music for the editors to choose from. I got to work on shows like Skin Wars, Wags, Are You the One, and help them pick out their music. Now, being so close to the fire, I learned almost everything you need to know about how music is used in media, and eventually this became my biggest advantage because the knowledge I gathered there is honestly priceless. And it helped me grow from getting my first placement to thousands of them. Many of those lessons I learned back then are still lessons I use every day to continue to grow. And shortly after, I ended up getting my first royalty check of $180 actually. And I'll never forget that feeling it gave me. But that second check was almost $1,400. That was 10 times my previous check. Now, this had convinced me more than ever to really double down in sync. because from that point on, it really quickly went up to 5 figures, and now having made over 6 figures off of sync. And of course, there's a little bit more to the story, but that's why we're teaching this masterclass. Now, please don't get it twisted, guys. I'm not telling you my story or showing you these screenshots to brag. I was at the point you're at right now. Mistakes are part of the process, and this is only to show you what is possible with this opportunity in sync licensing. To be honest, producers out there that are way more successful than I am. I've just chosen to become a little bit more transparent about my methods to help others along the way and pay it forward. And that's what's so great about sync licensing. I've been able to cross 6 figures with sync, but no definition am I one of the top people in this space. It was also necessary to tell you the story first because I'll be referring back to this and the key lessons that we'll be jumping into right now. So before we get into that, can we please get some hype in the chat? Let's go. If you're ready to get in this spam one in the chat, let me know. I want to see some ones flying left and right so I know you guys are just as ready as me. Let's get it. All right, let's go. I appreciate you guys having the patience to listen to my story so far. So let's get started off with understanding the sync licensing business model. So with our survey responses, we actually saw that 6% of you guys are doing sync licensing, but most of you guys are either selling beats, services, or other online products. So we actually made some last minute changes to address this first. And honestly, it gives us a good opportunity to teach you guys how the sync game works. So for the sake of keeping this simple, let's just say your business model is based on selling digital product or services. And when it comes to selling digital products, what do you need? You need to create those products, you need to promote those products, you need to generate traffic towards the place you're selling those products. And it usually works better once you build up a nice following, right? But even then, you're just putting it out there, hoping that someone comes along to pick it up. Well, this is where the part where sync licensing is different. In my business model, I only focus on creating the product, and as far as promoting them, I just focus on putting my efforts to hand them over to the right people. In other words, I can go directly to the source, and oftentimes that source is putting in the request with me, and that's a very different dynamic, which means I don't have to just put it out there and wait till someone comes along just to pick it up. See, that's a huge difference, but there's also a lot of similarities, which ties in with the way I actually get paid for my services. So when you're selling digital products, majority, if not all the revenue comes from instant purchases that people make. And those instant notification sales are honestly really amazing. I loved it when I was selling beats online, and I'm sure you guys don't want to miss that. Well, you don't have to. So for sync licensing, there are very often so-called upfront fees or sync fees involved. For example, I get briefs all the time to submit music for sync licensing opportunities, and they pay me anywhere between $150 to $500 per track, and they're even higher for commercials. However, the big difference is when selling beats, it's very rare that you're getting any money paid through the back-end royalties, unless you like landed a major placement with a big artist or something. But for sync licensing, those royalties make up majority of my revenue. Now, the royalty checks come every quarter through my performing rights organization. Every time my music is used in TV shows, here's an example of what my statement may look like. As you can see, for every second that my music is used, even if it's only for 5 seconds, I'm still getting paid. And by the way, you remember those cue sheets I talked about earlier? This is why we set it up. Eventually, it will all show up on people's PRO statements. Another surprising thing we actually saw in the survey is that more than half of people here don't even have a PRO account set up, which is pretty crazy because it's free to sign up as a writer. So if you're making notes, put this at the top of your list. You need to get signed up with the PRO. Now, one thing I did like about selling beats, for example, is that you could sell one beat over and over again to different people. And that reoccurring aspect of the selling beats business model can also be found in sync. Only then it's based off more of my tracks being reused in different TV shows or TV shows re-airing and reruns. If you ever watch like Breaking Bad or the shows like Walking Dead, we all know how many times they actually do reruns of the same season. Now, another thing I used to worry about a lot with my music was the quality of my music and whatever genre of music I like to make. And these days, again, when selling digital products, it's usually tied into whatever is trending right now. That really forces us to really make music we may not even like making. I mean, look at the thousands of type beat channels we see today. Not even talking about the competition, I'm pretty sure these type beat methods are keeping a lot of producers limited in their creativity and capped within their full potential. For sync, it doesn't matter really what genre you make as long as the music production meets the standards and fits the context. And I'll talk about that more later in this masterclass. Now, with all that being said, I'm sure you guys are probably wondering how much money can you make in sync? Well, here's a cool story because I thought the same thing. When I went all in sync, just a few checks in, I was already making $1,000 to $2,000 per quarter. And I had no clue how much money was actually possible to make. I just knew the more music I made, the bigger my royalty checks. And even today, people in sync really don't flex the amount they make. I just know that's not really how people roll. And nowadays, I've actually come to learn that's usually a good sign. But back in 2016, one of my coworkers actually showed me that I was so far away from what I actually could make. And one day, I had to drive to his house to drop off a hard drive with music. And meeting up with my coworker was a pretty chill time because we talked about life, we talked about work, and he actually, I asked him what was the true potential of sync. I asked how much money can you actually make from this, and no one ever really talked about their payments, and there was nothing on the internet about it. So he was kind of reluctant at first, but after a few drinks, he started to pull out his royalty statements, and one by one, I started to see each check just grow bigger and bigger and bigger. And when he got to his most recent check at the time, it was crazy. It changed my life. At that time, my salary was $20,000 off my job from admin. This dude doubled my salary, double my yearly salary in just one royalty check. So if you ask me today, from what I've witnessed over the past couple of years, I would say the possibilities and opportunities in getting paid in sync are endless. All right. Now, I just wanted to share that story because I honestly get the money question a lot, so I get it. I only wish more people in the middle of the action would talk about it more so we can actually come up with a solid number someday. But let's move forward on the key takeaways from this lesson. So number one being the sync business model does not depend heavily on promoting your music. You don't need traffic or a big social media following. You don't need to hold up a sign in a crowded place saying, come check out my music. With sync licensing, you can deliver your music almost directly to the source. Two, the majority of the revenue may come through back-end royalties, but a good chunk of money can come almost instantly available as upfront fees once you deliver your tracks. Number three, back-end royalties are paid out by PROs every quarter, and you get paid for every second that your music gets used in TV shows. Number four is that every genre is in demand when it comes to sync licensing opportunities, and you don't need to sacrifice or limit your creativity in order to see success. Number five being, just like selling beats to different artists, your music can be reused in different TV shows, or you can generate more when those TV shows do their reruns. This is a big part of sync licensing as well. And then number six being, when it comes to the money questions, the possibility for making money in sync are endless. So I bet you guys are probably wondering, how does this actually work? Again, we made some adjustments here because we saw that many of you guys don't really have an idea of how to get started with the sync licensing. So let's change that right now. But before I start, I do want to mention that parts of this process, it may come down to variables that impact your chances of success. And of course, it's impossible for me to cover every angle of it today. But since most of you guys are completely new, I feel like it's important to have you at least walk away with a good understanding of how the sync industry is actually organized. And let me tell you this, it may seem a little bit complex at first, but if you stick with me, I'm going to simplify this process for you. And as long as you understand and respect the hierarchy of everyone involved in the sync process, you are already 2 steps ahead of the competition. See, when I started, a lot of my tracks were rejected, and often I started to doubt my production skills, thinking that they may not be good enough, and I also thought that I just didn't have the right connections to get my music heard by the right people who call the shots. But when it came down to it eventually, was that my production skills were actually fine. I just wasn't understanding the criteria for submitting the type of music for sync. But more importantly, I did not understand the process after submitting my music and how it all aligns with the chain of command of music. So we're going to start off with that right now. Now, at the bottom of the chain, there are sync agencies and music libraries, which is actually where I worked at. Sync agencies and music libraries kind of conduct the same work. The only difference is that sync agencies are like smaller boutique-like agencies that typically focus on specific type of music requests or custom projects. And this is usually the best route for artists. And then music libraries usually provide all types of music. They supply a large catalog of music for the editors of the production companies. We will come back to music libraries later because they're highly important for music producers. Above them are the editors. Now they work with the production companies. They're the ones that are picking out the music while editing the TV shows, the movies, etc. Above the editors is the production company. They're the ones that create the project. Now, the editors work for them. Now, even though the editors choose the music, the production companies will ultimately be the ones that pay for the music and sign the agreements. Now, even though the production companies are the final stations, you have to understand that they will never by themselves take unsolicited music. You're never usually going to see them or work with them. So if you ever wondered how to get your music on TV like HBO, Netflix, or anything like that, you're never going to have much luck pitching your music to these companies directly, because at the very top, we have music supervisors. They are the real shot callers when it comes to pitching your music for sync. They are essentially the A&R for music for TV shows and movies. They are hired by the production companies, or they work with sync agencies and music libraries. Now, however, it's going to be hard to reach these individuals usually directly because they wear a lot of different hats. They have a lot of different responsibilities, and usually they work on a lot of different projects at the same time. So comes into how do we actually get our music in front of these shot callers? We're going to go through music libraries. The first step into getting your music into sync is to get signed by a music library. Now, music libraries accept submissions, and they have a team of music supervisors that act kind of like music supervisors that will listen to it. And once you get accepted into a library, this is where your journey is going to start. Now, I'm going to talk more about getting accepted into a music library later, but so far, so good, guys. You guys are good. You guys are kind of understanding and picking up what we are going over. I know we went over a lot, but I really want you to get in that mindset right now. Now, once again, if you have any questions, just drop them in the chat. We're going to have time to go over them later. Or if there's any quick answers that the guys can answer from the team, they'll answer it. But let me get a sip of water real quick. That was a lot of information right there. Now, to be honest with you guys, through working with the music library, this chain of command was like the first thing that I really started to learn about the landscape of sync. So how did it come that my music got rejected so many times when I first started pitching? Now, here are my initial thoughts. When I first started and was getting rejected, I was thinking maybe my music wasn't good enough. Maybe it was too competitive. Maybe it was way too saturated. There was probably like thousands of producers trying to submit their music every day. But guess what? None of that is true. Now, let me ask you a question real quick. How many of you guys actually watch Netflix series? I'm pretty sure like 99% of you guys do here. Well, here's a challenge for you. The next time you're binge watching a Netflix series with your girlfriend on a Saturday night, pay close attention to the music you hear, and don't just listen to the quality of music. Listen to how many songs you're hearing during a single episode of TV. Because this is what I found out myself through, again, the boring work of filling out those cue sheets at the library. Because here's the thing. In an episode of TV, there could be up to 100 tracks used in reality TV. 100 tracks. My hands will literally go numb from typing out the amount of tracks that were used in a cue sheet. And think about it. That's just one episode. There's 12 episodes in one season. So with 12 episodes times 100 tracks, there are over 1,200 opportunities for your music to be placed on one TV show. If you ever thought about sync licensing was too saturated or too competitive, I'm telling you right now, it's not. In my opinion, it's not. But I do get it. We're conditioned to believe that with any new opportunity that comes that's highly promising, it's going to be super difficult to get into. But the second that you think that, you're taking yourself from being able to take advantage of this opportunity. Now, let's just think about this for a second, right? It's not like TV, film, commercials, or any other visual media is really dying out right now either, right? It's been on an increase for years, and we're definitely still in the early stages today, because just in 2022, reports came out that sync licensing was on track for a record year in revenue with the emergence of all new streaming platforms and more visual media. But we don't have to pull out any stats to prove this to you. Think about all the new Netflix, Disney, Hulu shows being released lately, and every good show ends up having multiple seasons. And every really good show with multiple seasons ends up re-airing or getting licensed through different networks. Now, some shows or movies lose their license, let's say with Netflix, but then they'll show up on HBO or other networks. And honestly, this is the exact thing that makes sync such a massive opportunity right now. So now let's move on to how do you actually get accepted into a music library and how you do not get it rejected. But first, let's list some of these takeaways that we got from this lesson. If you didn't take notes, now's the time. 1, if you're new to sync, you have to respect the hierarchy with the sync landscape and every connection that is part of the chain. I will talk about more of this in the next lesson, but this is going to help you get into the mindset. Number 2, editors will pick the music. Libraries provide the music and supervisors curate the music. 3, your best way into sync licensing is submitting to music libraries. You can skip all other ways when you're just getting started, and you certainly do not want to pitch your music to TV networks or production companies directly. 4, there are over 100 tracks being used in an episode of reality TV. With the increase of shows and movies being produced, the demand for music will only increase. And this is by far not a saturated market. It provides a lot of opportunity. Now let's give you guys some tips of how to get accepted into music libraries. How am I doing so far, guys? Let me know if you guys have learned anything new. If not, no worries. We still got you. We got way more lined up. I'll let these comments come in while I continue. So how do you get accepted into a music library? Well, first of all, guys, rejection is part of the process. You just got to deal with it. Honestly, I still have tracks that are being rejected these days, and that's fine. I did find out a way how to get less rejections, but I'll tell you more about that in the next lesson. As I told you, these libraries are like the middleman, right? So you send them demos, you get accepted, and then you send them even more music. Now, to start off, you need to understand the position a music library is in and what the responsibilities are within the landscape of sync. Now, music libraries provide a large catalog of music, but the editors are the ones who are actually going through that music catalog and placing those songs in the project. So think about that for a second. If you know how to make music that catches the editor's ear, you're going to be golden. And honestly, this is how actually music libraries treat their submissions. They need to make sure that 1, their music is good enough to actually catch the attention of these editors, and 2, that it meets the production standards for these editors to be able to use them properly. And we're going to talk about this more later. However, they do get sent a lot of music every day, so you want to make sure that you meet their certain criteria to even get considered. So let's use that as a first step. Now, how do you even get on their radar, right? How do you even get considered? So let me tell you a story about a producer I recently helped out. And I know you're probably in here, bro. I hope you don't mind me putting you on the spot right now, but his name is Sagara. He came into my Discord one day and he said that he actually submitted to over 150 libraries and never heard a response back. But in his message, he said he felt like there wasn't really a place for his music to be used. But let me tell you, no matter what you create, there are opportunities out there for you as long as you can fit in the right context. But you could probably imagine how it felt, right? Like imagine shooting a basketball 150 times and never making a shot. So once I heard this, I reached out to him to try and help. And after all, I realized his confidence was probably as thin as ever. He was probably able to, he was probably ready to stop. He was probably ready to give up. But I decided to take a deep dive into his music and his submission process. And with Sagara, the first thing that I noticed is that he was submitting 10 tracks at once, which is such a small mistake, but it's pretty vital because you never want to submit more than 5 tracks when you're trying to get accepted into a music library. Another mistake I realized is that I heard his music and his demo album was not really consistent. He had multiple genres and not just one. And when you're submitting your demo, you always want to have a consistent sound and double down with what you're good at. Now, don't worry, there's a demand for all types of music, but when you're first submitting, you definitely want to send in the music that you specialize in, guys. I can't stress this enough. I helped him tune out his submission process. We doubled down on a more consistent sound, and after 150 attempts, he was finally able to get placed into his first music library, and then shortly after that, his first track got finally placed on TV. So shout out to Sagara, man. Big ups to him. And just like Sagara, I've helped out dozens of other producers too, and they usually have flaws within their submission process. So what you need to realize is that you're dealing with companies, guys. These companies have several different departments and internal workflows that you guys want to respect. So when you're submitting to a library, always make sure you check what the requirements are on their actual website. And to all my producers who sell beats, do not send tag beats. This is the best thing about working with these companies, that they're professionals. They're not going to try to steal your beat. So I want to stress that you do not want to send tag beats. I also want to stress this, that you do not want to use SoundCloud or any other service where you're actually getting easily distracted by other music. Trust me, you will be doing yourself a disservice. You're better off using a service called Disco. And make sure you guys note this because it's actually a gem. Libraries love to use Disco because it provides them an easy way for them to listen to music quickly. It's becoming industry standard. And I'm able to tell you guys all these things because I was on the other side at a music library. I was working and accepting and denying some of the submission processes. And if I ever saw somebody who didn't really follow the rules, their submission got instantly rejected. I mean, I'm talking instantly. So if you don't listen to their rules, they won't listen to your tracks, and it's as simple as that. So let me finish up this key takeaways for all you lazy dudes not taking notes out there, and feel free to screenshot. So number one, rejection is part of the process, guys. Do not let it discourage you. And in most cases, rejection really isn't about your music being bad. It's more because there's an actual issue with your submission process. Two, if you know how to make the music that catches the editor's ear, you're going to be golden. Three, never submit more than 5 tracks in your demo to a music library, and always send over tracks of a consistent sound that you're most good at. 4, when you're submitting your demos, do not send tag beats. Don't use SoundCloud or Spotify or anything with file attachments. You want to use Disco. Trust me, they love it. 5, understand that you're dealing with professional companies that have several departments and internal workflows that you want to respect. I have to tell you, getting accepted and having your first track placed is only step 1, guys. Now, don't get me wrong, getting signed to your first library is definitely a major achievement, but I'd be lying if I said that you guys won the game here. Frankly, this is where the real work begins. I first want to take a step back to 2020, actually. This is where I actually decided to quit my job at the music library. Now, I'm going to forever be grateful for that opportunity and everything I learned there. I loved everything about the library and the people that I worked there with, but I just felt like I was hitting a ceiling, and I started getting way more consistent placements. It actually gotten up to about $25K a year with sync licensing, which is quite the side hustle, right? But I felt like it was time to become my own boss, and I knew I could make a lot more money if I became a full-time composer. So I took that difficult decision to quit my job and go all in with sync licensing. I knew that if I wanted to become more successful, I needed to up my game. And I can tell you that one of the most important parts about landing more consistent placements is having an organized system for yourself. Now, this system for me included the way that I managed my catalog, the music production workflow, and optimizing the process of getting my music submitted for other opportunities. Once I started building my systems and putting the pieces together, I was able to go from $25K a year in 2020 to over $70K in 2022, just from royalty checks that I got through BMI that were generated passively. So how do you scale from one placement to thousands? A lot of producers get stuck once they get accepted into their first library, and it's usually due to the fact that they aren't able to keep up with the library and the demands that they may come from them. And I want you to remember, guys, again, you are not working with independent artists here. Music libraries have high-paying clients of their own. They're internally structured so they can meet these deadlines these high-paying clients give them. So this is why you need to have your stuff in order so you can keep yourself just as organized as they are. And this is why there's usually such strict rules when you first submit, because if you can't follow the rules to even submit, they're not even going to want to risk counting on you later. But there's upsides to this though, right? If you can show them that you're organized and able to keep up, they'll continue to reach out to you and you'll be able to make a killing off of sync. But another upside is that by having a system in place, it makes you be able to work way more efficiently so you can speed up your workflow and land more placements within a short amount of time. So here's how you can start optimizing your workflows. Once you first get accepted into a music library, you may be sent test briefs. And at the point where I am today, I'm getting music briefs sent to me almost every single day. Here's an example of a brief. And as you can see, they gave me a description of what was needed as well as the date, which at the time only had like 5 days to turn around and make these tracks. That's a pretty normal turnaround time, believe it or not. If I don't hit these deadlines, I may miss out on future opportunities, and even worse, I may ruin the relationship I have with that music library if I'm not in communication with them. Not to mention, if you're not keeping track of those tracks you do send out, it can become quickly messy. Once I started branching out to submitting to multiple libraries on a weekly basis, that's when I really started to realize how important it was to keep everything organized. And here's some examples of what an optimized workflow looks like. Honestly, these are things that you probably won't find anywhere else because it's mainly me just trying to hack the system. And I always found it challenging to work as efficiently as possible. So first, having a complete overview of your music catalog, including your metadata of your tracks. You can compare this to uploading your own beats to BeatStars. When you upload them, you pick the genre, the feel, the mood of the beat. You're using certain keywords for it, and you're even writing out short descriptions. And I do the same thing, only I keep my own records of that in some cases. Second, through learning the production requirements, I was able to work off certain production templates. Now, this was a challenge at first, but I figured out ways to create music that meets the criteria for sync without limiting my own creativity. For example, There were certain track structures that I would use arrangement templates for, so I wouldn't even have to think about where an intro would go, where a verse would go, where the hook would go. I also save my tracks as MIDI sometimes so I could reuse it for other tracks. This really helps me speed up the workflow. Third, I use specific sounds as VSTs. Honestly, this may not sound as cool since we all love to get hundreds of plugins and VSTs, but for me personally, I love bringing it down to just using a few plugins. It doesn't limit your creativity. It's actually the quite opposite for me. It allowed me to spend less time browsing for perfect sounds and the perfect kick, and it just allowed me to be producing music and focus on being creative. Finally, keeping track of your own submissions. When you first get started, you may be sending out several emails a day with different tracks. It's very important to use a note-keeping tool or even an Excel spreadsheet to keep track of what you've been sending out and on what date. Because here's what happens when you don't have those things set up properly. It's simple. If you have flaws in your systems that don't match the way the libraries work, you won't get many opportunities. The longevity of the game is dependent on how well organized you are. And if you're able to work more efficiently, you're able to land a lot more placements within a short amount of time. And to make this more tangible, if you come off as organized and having everything in order, you're going to get reached more consistently. Remember the dynamic I spoke about when comparing selling beats to sync? Well, this is how opportunities come to me. I don't necessarily have to chase them down anymore. Talking about chasing opportunities, there was one big mistake I made early on. I assumed if I didn't get a brief from a music library that I got accepted to, then there was no work to be done. I was extremely wrong. And this costed me a lot of opportunities, to be honest. At some points, there would be weeks where I wasn't even creating new tracks because I was just waiting around for another brief that the music library that I just signed with. So please make this a huge star in this part of your notes. This was groundbreaking for me, honestly. If I didn't hear much from a music library, instead of waiting around, I would get back in contact with them. But I never tried to sound needy or anything like that, and I never asked if they had any work. I would go and check out the library again, listen to what tracks they're placing, and I tried to identify what styles they didn't have much in their catalog or any styles that I knew I could make better that they already had. I would then create an album of 5 to 10 tracks based on what I identified and would submit it back to them to their music library. Now, this was huge for me because they would sometimes take all of those tracks and add it to the library for production companies to choose from. And before I knew it, my list of placements started to get longer and longer. And coming off as being an organized individual that's proactive and eager to work, the library started sending me more and more briefs because they knew I was a reliable producer. Remember this, the more music you have in music libraries, the more chances you guys are going to have to get your music placed. And notice how I said libraries. When I first started out years ago, I was just submitting to that one music library I was working for. I know now that it was a dumb mistake, but I didn't know any better at the time. I didn't want to jeopardize the relationship with my one music library. And I thought if I had submitted to another music library that it would be like cheating on them. But I thought about it, and it's not like I'm the only producer that music library is working with. And I realized that working with multiple music libraries also exposed me to way more opportunities, and I was getting briefs for everything, ranging from reality TV to Fortnite to wine companies to the NBA and even live performances for cheerleaders. And while it may seem like a lot of different placements and a lot of work that came with it, it really helped me having a system in place to easily meet that demand. But that wasn't the only thing. Part of my workflow was also knowing the context of how my music was used in TV shows, which ties in more with the genres of music and production styles. I figured out exactly how to create the music new music libraries were easily accepting, combined with the system that I had in place of keeping things organized from the start. And it was like I was landing placement after placement at this point. Honestly, there's no way to describe that eureka feeling, but I guess you guys can compare it to getting those PayPal sale notifications every morning when you wake up. This is probably the biggest advantage I had, honestly, which I can tell you about more in the next lesson. But before we get back into the next session, let's go over some of the key lessons from this section. If you can show a music library that you're organized and able to keep up, they will continue to reach out to you and you will make a killing in sync. The opportunities will come your way instead of you chasing it down yourself. Number 2, you need to find a way of keeping track of what you're sending out and making sure that your catalog is well organized. Number 3, you can work with multiple music libraries, giving yourself a chance to get more opportunities. Basically, the more music you have in the libraries, the more chances you're about to get placed. Number 4, music made for sync has specific genres and structures. I've been able to make a killing in sync because I doubled down on one specific genre that matched my production style. So please, before I drop any gems, are you guys enjoying this? Are we finding some real value out of this? Because I only have more to share. Let's get it. Now, through working at the music library, I have the biggest advantage of having gained all this insider knowledge, but Just like any opportunity in the music industry, you have to chase it down. You could say I had an unfair advantage of being in the middle of the action, but still I had to grind my way through it. But I was determined to learn the ins and outs in sync. And one thing that is super important is to always ask for feedback when you're getting rejected, even though you may not always get the answer. So I took every opportunity I could to become addicted to getting feedback to improve in sync licensing. Here's a crazy story. Actually, when I used to get rejected a long time ago, I really wanted to become a better music producer and get feedback from the head composer of the music library I was working for. And this dude was always super busy, so you couldn't just call him up and ask for feedback. But one day in the middle of the day, it was a work day actually, he randomly hit me up to fix his PlayStation. It was like 4 p.m. Without hesitation, I grabbed all my work stuff. I headed to him. I was stuck in traffic for about an hour and a half driving over to his place. And it only took me like 15 minutes to even set up his PlayStation. But since I had that one-on-one time with him with no distractions, I started to pick his brain and started to ask for feedback on a track I had just made. Now, I know this is a pretty unique story, but like I said, even though I had an advantage to being working directly with the editors, supervisors, shot callers, and seeing how they were actually picking the exact tracks, it wasn't always easy for me to access the people in my network, but I had to create opportunities for myself to grow. So why did I desperately want to get feedback from these guys? Well, there's two parts to sync. One is getting your music placed into a library, and then you have to wait till it gets picked up by the editor. Remember, just because you get accepted into a music library, it doesn't mean your music will get placed. And even if you're submitting to briefs that I just showed you an example of, there's not an 100% chance that you'll even get picked. So I started arming myself with some tricks up my sleeve to make sure I give myself the best possible chance on both aspects. See, making good music is one thing, but making music that is good for sync is the next level, which means you need to understand the context of how your music is being used. Within TV, there are different genres of TV, like drama, comedy, tension, emotional, scene closers, scene openers, underscore and bites. At the end of this masterclass, I'll give you guys access to this free downloadable PDF that will explain more of these genres in detail. But this is why so many producers fail early on, is because they're just turning in current music, trying to get placements. Now, do not make the mistake that believing that your music has to be corny or corporate, or that you have to be limited on certain styles of music. It's just that your music needs to be created with a certain purpose to match one of those genres used in TV. And the production process, honestly, it's usually more about taking stuff out rather than putting more elements into your music. Plus, through understanding the different types of genres within sync licensing, you want to focus on what you're best at. My coworker back at the music library actually ended up being really a big help for me, because after I did a bit more research, I realized that the style I made was called dramedy. And it's a mixture pretty much of both drama and comedy. Today, the majority of my placements have come from doubling down on what I did best. But even with knowing the context and genre, I also recommend staying away from certain sounds. In most cases, your music will be used underneath dialogue, aka when the actors or the characters are speaking. So it's important that your music is not competing against the dialogue. All it takes is for an editor to feel like one of your tracks is competing against it, and they'll just remove that track and go with another track to choose from if it's fighting with that dialogue. So here's some common sounds I recommend you want to avoid. I recommend staying away from distracting leads or synths, pretty much anything that's really piercing or harsh. And I avoid any crazy drum patterns like crazy 808 slides or really complicated hi-hat patterns. But that's not all. Remember earlier how I mentioned about identifying what music libraries didn't have? Well, here's some even better ways to stack up more and more placements. So back in 2021, I noticed that drill music was becoming an emerging genre in the mainstream industry. You're definitely going to want to note this part down, but usually for TV, music is about 1 to 2 years behind the current mainstream sound. Back then, it seemed like every radio station I turned on or a new song that was blowing up at the time was like drill music. I'm telling you this because TV shows also follow the same trends of the music industry. TV shows, movies, commercials, and all visual media needs to be modern and widely liked. So they're going to be more drawn to the music that is modern and widely liked. Once I saw drill was getting larger and larger, I noticed that at the time, these libraries I was a part of didn't have much drill. So I decided to take matters into my own hands as early on as possible and started to create dramedy drill beats. Remember, dramedy was my best style and drill's the new emerging sound, so I combined them both. And just as I predicted, these tracks actually started to become high demand. These libraries were chasing me down for these briefs because they knew that I was dependable and I could make exactly what they needed. And this is all thanks to the systems that I built myself that I mentioned in the previous key lesson. So let's recap this section, guys. 1, always try to get feedback. As musicians, we sometimes worry about our music not being really good enough, but to me, that's the #1 tool that helped me reach over 10,000 placements. Number 2, there are 2 parts to sync. One is getting your music placed into a library, and second, they need to get picked up by an editor. By understanding the genres within sync and how to mesh them into your own production process, your chances will instantly increase. Number three, avoid any sounds that could possibly be competing with dialogue. Anything that is piercing, harsh, or anything complicated like super crazy drum patterns, you want to avoid. Four, keep a close ear to what's popular in mainstream music. TV is usually 1 to 2 years behind in the music industry, and they always follow the same trends. All right. I hope I convinced you guys so far that sync opens up a world of opportunity for producers such as yourself. This is something you really need to pursue. The people who are deep in the industry know this already. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of producers making a killing off of sync that we never even heard of. Big producers in our industry are heavily relying on sync as well. I bet even your favorite industry producer is probably relying on sync as part of their income. Back when I was working at the library, I occasionally worked with multi-platinum award-winning producers. These are guys that hold, several #1 Billboard charts under their belt, and I never understood why they would waste their time here. Now I know that they came to rely heavily on sync licensing as a way to help sustain their income, because labels could take over years to pay them or never even pay them in some extreme cases. And we all heard stories like this, right? We've heard these industry nightmare stories for producers because sync licensing was their safety net of passive income. Everything is way more organized. Your music is actually in demand and they need producers. And this is very different than having to shop your music around to major labels, artists, or even DMing rappers on Instagram, just hoping that someone's willing to hop on one of your beats. I'm super grateful to have found my place in all of this and honored to be giving away this free masterclass for you guys here today. Thanks to sync licensing, I've been able to completely change my life. Although I grew up living paycheck to paycheck, my wife will never have to worry again, and so will my kids. I even added my daughter to my placements as well, and now she's able to get that money from those royalty checks to go towards whatever she wants to do when she grows up. I don't ever have to worry about caring for my family when they ever get sick. I don't have to ask permission from a boss to take the day off. I get to wake up, make music, and live the life to the fullest however I choose. And I'm not sure how you define financial freedom, but for me, ultimately, this is how I define it for myself. Now, I do want to jump back to that promise that I made you guys earlier. I promise you that you will learn how you can start earning passive income from your music being used on TV shows, commercials, movies, and other visual media without depending on a following, traffic numbers, connections, or wherever you are in the world. But the thing is, I didn't even have to make a promise because I know that this is possible. I am living proof of that myself, and I'm only paying forward the information that I've gathered along the way. As you must have noticed, I've been able to soak up all of this information by simply being around the right people at the right time, and I saw the opportunity and I took it. Being around those people gave me such a unique insight of how it all works, and there's so many things that I have learned that I haven't even talked about today, like how to negotiate those fair deals and what contracts you should or should not sign. How do you keep track of the music that's being placed on these TV shows and what tools you use actually to do that? And then there's actually even the production aspect, like the tips and tricks to improve your tracks before you actually start submitting to music libraries. I truly believe that the biggest issue with sync licensing is that there's simply not enough information about it. Well, that's what we want to do here, and that's what we aim to change with Heate. Those who've been following me for the last year know that I have a goal of helping 100 music producers land their first sync placement. I've been able to help 48 musicians so far do so. Now, by joining Heate, I truly believe we can shake things up a bit, and our new goal is now set to help over 1,000 musicians get their first TV placement. If you want to become part of that movement and become one of them, make sure you stick around just for a few more minutes as Ryan has something really, really dope to share with all of you guys. We've been working really hard on this. Thank you for your time. Let's get it, Ryan.
Wow, Nathan. Bro, you killed that for real, man. I think we were all a little stressed about this. At least I was. Not going to lie, but man, that was amazing. I wish I kind of had I think it's like a stream deck, like all the other cool YouTubers have, so I could play like some cool sound effects right now. But yeah, guys, let's give it up for Nathan in the chat. Drop a, I don't even know, man. Just drop something in there for Nathan. So anyways, guys, what's going to happen next is Nathan will be answering some questions in the comments while I move on to what is next up on our list. We still have a few things to go over. We still have a giveaway with over $2,500 in prizes. The rules still apply. Sorry, if you leave now, you're out of the draw. We're also going to give you guys access to some free bonuses at the end that will include more information on what Nathan talked about today, some checklists, some other stuff for you to get started, as well as all of the key lessons from this entire masterclass and all the key takeaways too. But first, who here is ready to get their first sync placement? Do you think you have what it takes to be producing tracks for TV? Remember, it doesn't matter what genre of music you make, yes or no. Put in the chat for me, by the way, yes or no. Are you willing to learn the production skills needed for sync placements so you can get accepted into your first library ASAP? Yes or no. Are you willing to take a different route? And instead of mainly focusing on selling beats, products, or services, put effort towards a new opportunity to earn passive money from royalty checks for years to come? Yes or no? Finally, if you followed a proven system and take a strategic, well thought out approach to become the go-to producer for music libraries, do you think you would be successful? Yes or no? Now, the reason that I'm asking you this is because I know it can be difficult to change habits. You might have created your very own way of working or have entirely other things that require your focus. Especially if you've already seen results from your current efforts, it can be scary to make significant changes to whatever it is you're being active on right now. But I want you to understand, we are not kidding. This really is a huge opportunity right now. And we're also not kidding about our goal to get 1,000 music producers to land their first TV placement. In the past 6 months that we've been working with Nathan, we've discovered how powerful his work methods and his strategies are. The system that he has developed to consistently land placements it's pretty unique, right? We talked to other producers in sync as well, but no one was more organized and structured than Nathan, and his own successes are proof of that. But also look at the people that he has helped in this past year. Take Danny, for example, okay? Danny has been a musician for the past 10 years or so, and he's actually a long-term friend of Nathan. He was only ever focused on selling beats. Now, once Nathan introduced him to the world of sync licensing and how accessible it was to get started, he got Danny to start sending out demos to libraries, and Danny actually went on to get his first placement on Netflix, and he has not looked back since Nathan has helped him get started. Or what about Marshawn, who was amped to get his first placement on VH1 and then shortly went on to land another placement on Bravo? Okay, I can't describe how hyped we get from reading these messages. It's one of the reasons that we did this masterclass today, because we are convinced that more producers need to be taking advantage of this. So, like I mentioned at the beginning of this masterclass, we do have a special offer for you today. So this is the time where I'm gonna get into full sales mode and try to get you to buy our $5,000 course. Just kidding. It's not gonna be anything like that, so please don't worry. What this is going to be is fucking amazing and something that we know will shake up the whole producer community. So yeah, listen, stick around if you're interested in learning more from Nathan and learning how to fast track your way to your first sync placement or more placements. Even if it's just a few minutes to see if this is something for you or not for you, okay? If you're like, nah, I don't need this, feel free to leave at any point. But do understand that our special offer is very limited. Plus, if you leave now, you will not access our free bonuses and you will not be able to enter the giveaway if you do leave. So, introducing Zero to Sync. Zero to Sync is our new online course with over 48 videos that will teach you the inner workings of the sync licensing industry. Okay, Nathan had previously released a course, but we have spent the past 6 months upgrading it and optimizing it based on all of the feedback from his previous students. It is without a doubt that Zero to Sync will provide you with the skills and knowledge necessary to confidently and successfully submit, manage, and monetize your music catalog. Okay, Nathan already dropped a lot of gems today, but in Zero to Sync, I promise you, we take things to a whole new level. Okay, this is not just a course to teach you some general knowledge on how sync licensing works. With a bit of luck, you could have already figured that out yourselves by now. Okay, Zero to Sync provides you with Nathan's entire process on how he has gotten to land over 10,000 placements and still lands dozens of new placements every month. Okay, I'm talking about a complete framework. This includes production tutorials, how to get set up, how to submit to libraries, signing your first deal, dealing with negotiations, and ultimately scaling up your list of TV placements. More specifically, these 48 video lessons that we've recorded are divided over 6 different modules and several mini courses, so that way you go through the course in a structured way. In Module 1, you'll get a comprehensive overview of the sync licensing industry, why the time is now, and discover your growth potential. In Module 2, you'll learn about the who's, what's, and where's of sync licensing to help you prepare for getting the most out of all of your future submissions. In Module 3 through 5, you get to know what production genres there are for sync, learn about the best practices for submitting your music to libraries or sync agents, and we go over the process of signing your first contract and understanding deal structures. Okay, I gotta take a breath real quick, okay? You guys, this is beyond valuable, okay? This includes how Nathan prepares his music for submitting and how you can get a big advantage in the submission process by submitting like a professional and making sure that you are getting the most out of every single deal that you get. Okay, guys, this is still the music industry. It's tough out there. We want to make sure that you do not get tricked into a bad deal, and we're going to help you navigate your way through this. Then finally, in Module 6, you'll learn all about the system and tools that Nathan uses to scale his TV placements. Here, he'll be showing you more about the system he was referring to earlier in the masterclass. You'll get to see exactly how he manages his catalog and makes sure that he effectively takes advantage of new opportunities on a daily basis. Okay, I gotta take a breath real quick. Whew, okay, we still good? Cool. But this is not even the best part. Everyone who joins Zero to Sync gets a free copy of the Notion Sync Center, and this will be vital to your success. In the past 6 months, we've worked alongside Nathan to fully uncover his methods, everything he does, every tool he uses, every production template he has ever made, down to even some of the sounds he is using. We've captured it all and turned it into templates and resources. This can all be accessed through your personal Notion Sync Center, and it will help guide you along every step of the way to get signed to your first library and land your first TV placement. You get access to a curated database with over 200 libraries, including contact details. Email templates that you can copy and paste so you don't have to make any mistakes in your first submissions. Checklists to make sure you have everything prepared a library or a music supervisor may ask you for. And last but not least, an advanced music catalog management system to keep track of your music, your placements, your submissions, and your briefs. Like we mentioned earlier, our goal with this is to make sure you can take full advantage of this brand new opportunity at hand and you do not mess it up by making any rookie mistakes. And the best part of it all, you can be up and running in 30 days, spending only a few hours a week setting up a system that took Nathan more than 6 years to develop. And just so you know, those who sign up get lifetime access and a lifetime worth of free updates as well. Okay, so Zero to Sync includes the same strategies and methods that Nathan has taught to dozens of other producers to help them start landing their first placements or consistently land more. Now, we've even asked some of these producers that used Nathan's systems, and this is what they said. Okay, Revision was a producer that came into Nathan's community just a few months ago, and he was completely new to sync licensing. Okay, he did the number one thing you're supposed to do, and that's take action. He put together his demo tracks for a library, but he was worried his music wasn't good enough yet. After reaching out to multiple libraries and being ghosted with every email he sent, he started to dive even deeper into sync, but couldn't find the answers he was looking for. He realized that he could either do this himself, or he could get the help he needed and get going even faster. So after deciding to follow and start implementing what Nathan was teaching, he shortly landed his first placement just a few months after. And as of recent, not even 10 days after his first placement, he is now happy to say he's at 6 placements right now. Even as a father, Chris said, "I actually have your sync licensing course and it has truly blessed me. I got accepted into 3 music libraries just last week. Super excited." So I can't stress this enough. Even if you feel like your hands are tied, your time is limited, and all of this is completely new to you, sync licensing is still a great route for you to pursue as long as you can take the action and follow the proven system. Okay, now let me take a drink of water real quick, guys. Throat's getting a little sore here. Thank you guys for being patient with me there. Now, these are the comments that we really enjoy reading. Someone said this group is awesome. This is the stuff they do not teach you in school. Even James had a library respond and tell him, yeah, man, knocked it out of the park on the first bat. Beautiful work all around, from the music to the production to the labeling. And listen, I want to elaborate on this because I can show you more guys who have gotten placements using Nathan's methods, but in reality, when you start implementing these strategies, it's not like overnight success will happen. These guys were just getting started, but they already see the value in what we teach. Okay, the guidance you receive is on point, and you do not waste any time on useless information. Even before they saw real results, they already knew they had made a great investment. When you have a blueprint and a proven framework to follow, really all it takes is for you to put in the work and continue to make great music. And then you can look back 3 months from now, 2 months from now, or heck, even 1 month and be like, hey, I'm actually doing this. And I mean, what is better than hearing your music being used in a TV show for that first time? And we get messages like these all the time, so there's no doubt that this can happen for you too. Not to mention, you can spend your entire day in the studio working on music, guilt-free and doing what you love because you know the business will continue to run on autopilot and make money while you work on new music. So you may be wondering, right? Is this for you? Okay, some people are not sure if this is the right option for them, so let me tell you who this is for. Of course, producers. Whether you're a beginner and you want to get started in sync licensing, or if you're more experienced and looking for ways to consistently land more placements, in both cases, this is for you. You just may want to skip some videos in the first modules. This also works for musicians who want, next to their shows and studio gigs, to create an additional revenue source and want to start a business of their own and eventually completely live off their music and managing their own time. This is for anybody who wants to escape the 9-to-5, get rid of their day job and make music their full-time gig. Basically, create whatever you define as your financial freedom. And this is for anybody who wants to create a life that they love and do so without reinventing the wheel and coming up with a system themselves, crossing their fingers hoping that it will work. Because this system truly does. And as long as you do the work and you're interested in building a long-lasting career in music and have patience, this system will work for you. So, everybody with me so far? So here's what you're getting. You're going to get the Zero to Sync online course, which is a total value of $597. Well, but getting into sync, learning a bunch of new things, isn't that going to take a bit of time, work, and effort? Yeah, you're going to have to put in some work. You can't just watch the videos and expect for anything to happen. You actually have to take the action. And frankly, this is usually where most online courses fail. At Heate, though, we have years of experience in educating producers, and some of them, well, let's just say even with 24 hours of video training and dozens of consult calls, they still manage to mess up here and there. And this is exactly what we want to avoid. Remember, we're trying to get 1,000 producers to land their first TV placement. We are going to do anything in our power to make this happen. And that is exactly why we created the Notion Sync Center. This is a true copy of Nathan's system that will get you going in a matter of weeks instead of months. It has everything you could ever need in sync. And to avoid anybody messing up in the progress, we've pretty much laid out all of the steps for you. We've done pretty much all the legwork for you except for making the music. That's on you. Other than that, we give you the exact workflow and process to follow to get your first placements. And listen, even if you struggle along the way, we've included a bunch more of additional resources to help you with whatever crosses your path. So, you're not only getting the Zero to Sync course, you're also getting the Notion Sync Center, which will provide you with an arsenal of documents, submission templates, checklists, email templates, a music library database. Okay, these resources will do most of the work and heavy lifting for you. Plus, the Notion Sync Center will guide you through the course at first, but once you're done, you're going to be using it for all of your day-to-day tasks as well. So that means aside from the free templates, you'll be getting the workflow that will save you literally weeks of work and keeps you organized so you can start instantly managing your own catalog and scale up your TV placements like a pro. So, 0 to sync plus the Notion Sync Center valued at $197, plus the templates and resources also valued at $197. That is a total value of $991. Now, if you remember from earlier, Nathan's biggest advantage was knowing how editors choose music and fully understanding these genres of TV. And we knew this would probably be a big hurdle for most producers who are completely new to sync. So we put together something special to make it as easy as possible to get your tracks ready for TV. And it's not going to involve spending weeks learning these genres. We actually have production templates that are included. This means you will get the blueprints of Nathan's most used arrangements and production templates. Just by following these simple techniques, it will easily help you get closer to landing your first placement. So now you get the course at $597, the Notion Sync Center plus templates and resources both valued at $197, and the Producing for Sync Masterclass valued at $149. So now the total value is $1,140. On top of that, just as another bonus for everyone, we are throwing in the Mixing and Mastering for Sync Masterclass. This will help you level up your production quality by learning the mixing and mastering tools and techniques that Nathan has used to land over 10,000 placements in TV shows. So let me get a breath real quick and a sip of water. So quick recap. You're getting the 0 to Sync course, the Notion Sync Center, the templates and resources, the Producing for Sync Masterclass, and the Mixing and Mastering for Sync Masterclass. That is now a total value of $1,289. But we're not done just yet. To make sure you can get going as fast as possible in the right direction with your sound selection, we wanted to make sure that you had premium new drum sounds to use. And we actually reached out to some of the clients we work with at Heate to get you some exclusive free bonuses. So we're going to set you up with over 400 free premium drum samples from top producers like J Cactus, Chucky Beats, and Prod by Ocean. Big shout out to those guys for providing those free samples as well. So listen, on top of everything already, we're going to add over 400 premium drum samples too, which now comes to a total value of $1,423. Okay, we're not even done just yet. On top of that, we're going to give you lifetime access to our private community on Discord. Okay, students get a special role and access to exclusive channels where you can connect with other successful producers. There's a bunch of producers already in here crushing it, even those successful guys I told you about earlier. And the value of this is priceless. You've already seen some of the screenshots of some of the guys in there. And I truly believe that one of the fastest ways that you can start landing sync placements is to start by being around the other producers who are actually doing it and getting to pick their brain and ask them questions too. Simply being around people with the same mindset and mentality is going to help you grow so much faster. So again, this is absolutely priceless and you get a lifetime access to this group. Now, drum roll please. As a final bonus, we're offering an exclusive 6-week mentorship program where Nathan will personally guide you through the course. This is a super limited program only available to the first 50 producers. Okay, so during this exclusive 6-week mentorship program, you'll receive one-on-one guidance and support to secure your first sync placement or get help if you've been struggling to consistently land more. Nathan will be doing live calls to tackle some of the most important topics when it comes to creating, submitting, and managing your music. Okay, producers in this mentorship program will get a chance to watch how Nathan works out on a real brief from start to finish, pulling back the curtains like I guarantee you nobody else has ever done before. He will also guide you through training your ears so that way you can better understand how music is used in TV. Similar to how his coworkers used to take him under their wing to teach him the valuable lessons of understanding the TV genres. You're also going to get personal assignments which you will need to submit to Nathan. He will then go over every submission and will treat them as if he was still working at the library. Only, in this case, he'll be giving you actionable advice and potentially brutally honest feedback to help you improve. Now, the cherry on top, all these submissions will then be collected and all of the feedback will be shared with everyone in the program to learn from. So you're not getting feedback from just your submission, but from 49 other producers' submissions, okay? Ultimately, the goal for this 6-week program is to get you accepted in your first library and do it even faster. On top of this, it will include a separate Discord channel only for the mentorship students. Plus, we're going to have accountability check-ins to make sure you're staying on track and taking action. So, let me just take one more breath here, guys. Whew. So if we go over this one more time and show you the full list of what we're offering today for Zero to Sync. You're getting the Zero to Sync course, the Notion Sync Center, the templates and resources, the Producing for Sync Masterclass, the Mixing and Mastering for Sync Masterclass, 400 plus premium drum samples, a special Discord community, and an optional choice for a 6-week mentorship program limited to the first 50 producers only. Altogether, this is valued at $1,672. Now, let me ask you a question. If all this did was show you the exact framework for making passive money from your music and building up a list of sync placements, would it be worth it? You tell me, okay? You tell me. If all this did was provide you the entire system, tools, resources, and templates, so that way you didn't have to spend hours creating it yourself or putting yourself at risk to make a mistake in the process, would it be worth it? You tell me. If all of this did was help you build a sustainable business and set you up for a better chance to be able to make a living off your music, and at some point being able to quit your job and go all in on music just like Nathan did, would it be worth it? You tell me. And here's the thing. I want you to think bigger for a second. What if this could show you the roadmap on how to go from 0 to 1,000 to 10,000 to $100,000 a year doing what you love, making your own hours, and live a life that is all about music? If this could show you exactly how to get there, regardless of how many years it would take, because that can be different for everyone, would it be worth it to you? Okay, would that be worth it to you? Now, when it came to pricing, we had 2 choices to make for this one-time special offer. We could either make this very cheap, so that way everybody could access the material, or we could charge a little bit more and provide way more value, way more support, and ensure that you are taken care of after signing up. Okay, we had these 2 choices, but because we care so much about the end results, we went for the second option. And it's still not even that much, don't worry. I mean, think about it. By the time Nathan received his second royalty check, it was already close to over $1,400. Way more than what Zero to Sync will cost you. Now let me ask you this again. How much would the end result be worth to you? What if you could use this to create financial freedom, or maybe just even as a side hustle that could match the income of your current job? What if this gives you a chance to make a good living by focusing your efforts on music without having to spend the hours on marketing and promoting and trying to get heard? How much would that be worth to you? Or what about becoming an even bigger blimp on the radar and having more companies discover your productions? How much would that be worth to you? Okay, I know for some of these things, it's pretty hard to put a dollar value on that, but these are not unrealistic goals, and here's what you need to understand. The industry of sync licensing. Today, most people have no clue what it's about. A lot of people, including yourself, before this masterclass had no idea how it all even works. And most importantly, people do not know how much value and how much potential there is in this industry. Okay, while Nathan and other successful producers have made a ton of money from sync licensing in the past 3 to 5 years, only recently have producers started to see how accessible this path is. This industry is being slept on. But please make no mistake, this industry is getting bigger and bigger every year. So that also means that it's getting more and more attention. And it's going to become more competitive soon, as with every new opportunity, that's just how it works. But I want you to understand, we are on the verge of a major change in the music industry. Right now, This is the perfect time to jump on this train and take advantage of it while things are still developing. Okay? If all this would help you do was fill in the blanks and get in on this early on, being ahead of the competition and all the other producers, how much would that be worth it to you? Okay? Now, since you're still here, I know you're serious about this stuff. And since this is our official Zero to Sync launch, we wanted to make you a special offer. You can get access to Zero to Sync right now for 3 payments of $149, which are monthly payments, or 1 payment of $397, which will save you an extra $50. Now, if you choose to go for the mentorship program, which means getting one-on-one guidance from an industry professional like Nathan, really helping you hand by hand, that will only be $497. And as a reminder, is limited to 50 producers only. So if you want to get started, we have now officially open enrollment to Zero to Sync, and you can be one of the first producers in there. So if you want to get started, click the button and it'll take you to the enrollment page where you can go ahead and get signed up. Now, we truly want to work with people who are dedicated to succeed in this. That means that we're not going to force you to make a decision right now, but we do want to show our appreciation to you guys who stick around with us till the end. If you sign up before midnight EST, meaning you still have a few hours left, you can use coupon code SYNCFAST and get an extra 20% off. This will only count for the one-off options, not the payment plan. And remember, at midnight, this coupon code will be disabled. Now, if you need more time, we're keeping enrollment open until Sunday, the 19th of March. After that, we are closing enrollment to fully focus our efforts on the first round of students and those who join the mentorship program. At this time, we are unable to say when we are going to open this up again. So, if you want to be a part of this, this week is your chance to get in on the action. And let me remind you, Zero to Sync is something that has never existed before. Nathan had previously released a course, but we have spent the past 6 months adding in even more content and optimizing it based on the feedback from his previous students. But during and after this free masterclass, you'll only have a short window to join. Okay? And I want you to understand, we have not mentioned it anywhere before today because we want to make sure that we get people in that are willing and able to take action. And since you have just watched this free masterclass, you are the type of person we believe that will have the highest success rate. So, if you're ready to take action, how would it feel to join a group of producers and mentors who know what they are talking about and have the same mindset as you? Remember, besides Zero to Sync, you'll also get access to all the bonuses, including the Sync Command Center, which is the system Nathan created and perfected over the years to help him land 10,000 placements. Just to put it in perspective, it took Nathan nearly half a decade to figure this out. And don't forget his various investments in skills, mentors, and jobs. Forget about the money that he had invested. He made it back tenfold, but his time he will never get back. So we're also giving you sort of a shortcut here, just like the successful producers that we showed earlier. So now you have a chance to get our proven masterclass and copy and paste the templates that do most of the work for you for less than $400. And you can get most of the groundwork done in 1 to 3 months. It doesn't have to take you 4 to 5 years to figure this shit out. By the way, if you guys have any questions, also, Robin, Nathan, Troy, and Rutger are in the chat right now to help you out. Now, I want to remind you, if you do the payment plan, it's as low as $4.96 per day. That is the price of a Starbucks coffee. But my question to you is, are you willing to exchange a month, 2, or 3 months worth of a Starbucks coffee for a lifetime of knowledge on how you can start earning passive income from your music being used on TV? Another way to look at this is, are you willing to give up buying new sounds and plugins just for a short period of time? You can learn this entire system and apply this in the months and even years to come. So now you have 2 options. I mean, you can go at it alone. You can make mistakes. You can make progress via trial and error. You can waste tons of money and possibly years of your life till you master this, until you really figure it out. I mean, again, this is the path that cost Nathan years and a lot of his time and money. Option number 2 is you can do nothing and nothing changes. And that's perfectly fine too. This isn't for everybody. And number 3, so there's actually 3 options. You can learn a proven system from someone who has not just done it, but someone who is still doing it today and has also helped dozens of other producers do the same. Plus, listen, I get it. You might be a little skeptical. So we have a 30-day money-back guarantee. We know how things can be in the producer community. If you want to make sure it's legitimate, perfectly fine. So here's the bottom line, okay? If you go through the program and you actually implement it, you will see amazing results, and that's just facts. But in case you're not sure, we want to give you a 30-day money-back guarantee so that way you can test drive the entire Zero to Sync course. You can watch the entire course completely risk-free. Simply sign up for the program, watch the content, and take the action. And listen, if you are not 100% satisfied and you see no value in what you learned, we'll refund your money, no problem. We are so confident in this course, and this is something that we have spent months putting together with Nathan. So the real question to ask yourself is it worth taking a leap of faith, and are you willing to go all in to turn your passion for music into a profitable business? Even if it does only half of what we have claimed today, it'll easily pay for itself. Think about it. Nathan's first royalty check ever was for $180, and shortly after, his second was already close to $1,400. It might not happen overnight. We will not make you that promise. But it will happen within a period of a few months after you get the ball rolling. But it all starts with taking action and perhaps taking a leap of faith and changing your mindset. Okay, we just want to make sure this isn't like some $5 book you buy and stays on the shelf. This is something you have to put effort in. And if you're willing to put in the work, we guarantee you it's going to work. So the worst case scenario, you'll get a full refund. And really, the worst case scenario is that you waste a bit of time and you get your money right back. You've literally got nothing to lose but everything to gain. So if you're excited to get started on this, make sure you enroll into Zero to Sync before midnight using coupon code SYNCFAST on the checkout page for an extra 20% off. And just to recap, one final time before we move into the giveaway, you're getting the Zero to Sync course, the Notion Sync Center, the templates and resources, the Producing for Sync Masterclass, the Mixing and Mastering for Sync Masterclass, 400 plus premium drum samples from some of the top producers on the scene right now, access to our exclusive special Discord community, and an optional choice for a 6-week mentorship program limited to 50 producers only. Altogether, this is valued at $1,672. But today, you can get started for less than $150. Okay, less than $150 you can get started. And I'm also getting some messages from the team right now. We only have a few spots left for the mentorship program. This thing is going fast. So please make sure you act now if you want to be in there. So guys, we have come to the end of this free masterclass. Jeez. Whew. I want to thank you guys for just being in here today, and a big thanks to all the producers who already signed up for Zero to Sync. This is going to be an amazing journey that we'll be taking on together. I cannot wait for you guys to log in and see what we have prepared inside. We have just a few more things left. We'll be selecting the winners for the giveaway right now, and here's how we're going to do that. So Robin just exported a list of people who are still in here right now, and we'll be picking out the winners in the next 15 minutes. These winners will be announced in our Discord channel, Heate. So if you're not part of it yet, make sure to check to see if you've won. The guys will be sharing a link with you to join right now. Also, if you want to get access to the keynotes and the free downloads of this free masterclass, make sure to check your inbox tomorrow. Unfortunately, we decided to make some last minute changes to the masterclass based on what we got to learn from you guys through the original survey we had. Also, we're going to be running a after party in Discord to celebrate the launch of Zero to Sync. Whoever is interested to hang out with us for a little bit longer, we'll be opening up a voice chat in our Discord channel so you can talk with us. If you have any questions you want me to address, you want Nathan to address, or anyone else, you can ask them in there too. We'll be in there for the next hour or so come hang out with us there. And one final reminder, if you're interested in joining Zero to Sync, make sure you enroll before midnight using coupon code SYNCFAST on the checkout page for an extra 20% off. Once again, thank you for being in here today. I'm going to close the session down and move over to our Discord now. So see you there. Hope to see you in the course. Peace out.